This is Sports Matters with Jerry Coughlan.
It's so retro.
We cover all the biggest sports on the planet. MMA, boxing, snooker, football, darts, you name it, and we cover it. Check out all the latest interviews with Jerry and the Stairs weekly on Sports Matters.
Now listen up.
Okay, so welcome to Sports Matters with me, Jerry Coughlan. I'm joined by one of the greatest dart players of our time, Mr. John Lowe. John, how's things with you, my friend?
Things are very good, very good. I mean, apart from not playing right now, I'm still very much involved with the game, and health-wise, I'm good, so I can't complain.
Good stuff. And I heard, from what I've been told, you're still throwing quite well at the exhibitions. You've still got the X factor when it comes to darts.
I think so. I'd like to think so. I don't play real competitive darts anymore, like on the big circuit.
Yeah.
So really, exhibitions, although I'm playing well in exhibitions, if I lose, I still get to play the next game, which in a big tournament you have to watch.
Well, that's a good thing. Like, you've done it all. You've achieved pretty much everything when it comes to darts. But can you tell us, John, how did it start first there for you?
I first started out just by fate, really. I didn't play darts till I was 21. I mean, I used to race motorcycles, clubman racing motorcycles, and it happened to be snowing one Friday afternoon. We couldn't get to the races, so I called in a pub. Some guys were playing darts, and one went to the toilet and said to me, "Take my throw." Instantly, from then on, the rest is history. I've played ever since.
And like, you've won so many prestigious tournaments, but tell us, back when you started, like, you pretty much started, when it all kicked off, the likes of the era with Leighton Rees, Eric Bristol. Like, you travel around the world, of course. Like, I'd say traveling to America back then to promote the game of darts was pretty big.
We did. When I first started, there was no professional darts at all.
Yeah.
And so really, I grew up with television. I'm quite lucky. When I won the world Masters, and then the British Open, and then the News of the World, all on TV, as TV was growing. So really for me, it was like, as TV burst on the scene of darts, I was with them. I knew the cameramen, I knew the producers, and so really it was like a progression. There was not a lot of money in the game in terms of those days. But we did travel the world with the British Darts Organisation, playing for England. We travelled to New Zealand, Australia, everywhere. But we didn't make money. It wasn't like it is today. It was if you covered your expenses, you did quite well.
So saying that, of course, in 1984, October 13th, you hit that famous first nine darter, and the prize fund was £102,000. Now, surely that was a lot of money in the 1980s.
It was colossal money. The reason it was that high is because no one had ever done it. And so obviously it was MSI at the time. They insured that amount. And that year, Seve Ballesteros won the Open, and he picked up £60,000. And John McEnroe won Wimbledon and picked up 90. So it's quite good for darts, and for me, that darts beat all the big sports at that time and picked the big jackpot up.
Well, it's a nice old prize fund. And of course, you won that first World Championship, 1979. So all the hard work paid off. Of course, you were playing the game for a couple of years. But what did it feel like, to win that first world title, the first of three?
Well, when I won the first world title, I was pleased, obviously, to be world champion. And at that time, I was really playing better than anybody. But I still regarded it, I needed to win another. If you win one, people can say, you're a little bit lucky, you won one. So I was desperate to win another. And although I won 3, I was in the final 8 times. So I actually lost in the final 5 times. Which, looking back on, I think I could or should have won 5 of them. So I can't complain at winning 3.
Of course. And it's kind of three different eras. Like, you won in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. That must be an incredible achievement. Like, for you, John, if I was to ask you, what was the best error for you winning the title? Like, would you say the first one or the last one? Like, so one in 1979, 1987, and 1993. Could you pick one, or do they all mean the exact same to you?
I think the first one was fantastic because I played Leighton Rees, who was world champion, and we was 1-2 in the world, and yet I beat him 5-0 in that first world championship. Not a true reflection on how well Leighton was playing. So I regarded that one as great. And then, of course, the middle one, I beat Eric Bristow, which I'd have to say gave me a lot of satisfaction, although Eric didn't play that well. And then the third one, it's not as if they were all just 10 years apart. As I said, I'd already been in the final many times in between that. So it was just great to pick it up in the 1993. It was just fantastic to win, and I never did defend it because the big split in darts came along and we were all banned from playing.
Of course. And of course you were a founding member of the PDC, which pretty much, was organised and set up in 1993. Was there any, obviously this was a huge team because when you look at PDC today, it's number one across the world. Was there any kind of mixed emotions? Was it some things you didn't know what was going to happen when you formed, or did you just have, full faith that the PDC was going to take off from day one?
It didn't take off from day one, no, and by a long way. We played for 18 months, and the prize money, which we were supposed to be picking up, we didn't get paid for months because they didn't have any money. If people really knew, which they do now because I've written a book and other people have told a story,
of course.
We were very close after 1 year to being folded. And it was only the help of outside people like Unicorn Darts that came along and supported with monetary. And then, of course, the big turning point was when Barry Earn stepped in with Matchroom. And from there on, it just grew mega. It became a business.
Indeed. And it's a major sport all around the world now. And of course, you've seen it go on to huge success, selling out arenas with the Premier League in general, tickets being sold out in advance. I'd say it must feel great to know that you were a founding member of such an amazing organisation.
Well, it's great. I mean, people come up to me and say, do you wish you were playing today because of all the money that's around? And I say, no, I'm quite happy. What we did, we brought it along to a certain level. Playing-wise, me and Eric for 17 years in the embassy are only a couple of points lower than what the lads are scoring now. Not Michael Van Gerwen and Taylor, but just below that. So I'm dead pleased that the game's as big as it is now, and we can look back and say, hey, we did help somewhere along the line. Indeed.
Of course, I look when I look back, because obviously, I'm a big dart fan myself, and I've always looked up to yourself and the likes of Phil Taylor and Eric Bristow. You've won so many amazing tournaments. You've won the Denmark Open on 2 occasions, the Canadian Open 4 times, the British Open, and of course, there was big tournaments back then, like the News of the World and stuff. It's sad to see that no longer there. But tell us, the World Masters, that must have been a great achievement, because as you know, as well as anyone, that World Masters was probably tougher to win than a World Championship.
The World Masters was very tough, but you have to remember you qualified through your counties.
Yeah.
And they brought people in from around the world, and some of those players, I don't think they played many games to get there. There was like an invitation. The hardest tournament, without a doubt, years gone by, was the News of the World. Just best of 3 legs. I mean, that was the hardest tournament to win. It was best of 3 legs, 501, toss of a coin, and they threw from 8 feet, which was even 3 inches longer than the throw today. So I still regard the News of the World as of that era, that was the World Championship.
Definitely, fantastic tournament. And John, do you think the game's changed much? In regards to standard, obviously there's a big standard there. But when you talk to certain players, I spoke to Dennis Priestley recently, and he's always had great words for yourself. And he said that there was days when your standards were definitely up there with the likes of PG.
Well, if you look at the averages of today in this last tournament we've just seen on TV, which is I think the best in the world, the one from Blackpool, the World Match Play. I think that's an incredible tournament because it's based on legs and not sets. But the average there was only probably 10 games of the whole week that went above 100 average. The rest were down anything from 82 up to 95 or 6. So in our day, as I say, me and Eric averaged 17 years in the embassy, and we averaged 31. So that's 93 a throw. So I don't think there's a lot of difference between 4 or 5 of the past years to the lads of today. Van Gerwen's taking it a step higher. He's averaging 104, 105 every time he throws. And Gary Anderson's right up there with him.
He is indeed. But I always say, like, there's no doubt about it. Like, if you guys were still playing on telly, like, the standard obviously would be dragged up because, you know, obviously there's a lot more weekly tournaments, you know, there's a lot more televised stuff. So I think it's only a matter before everyone gets to that standard of, you know, like 100 plus, you know, because the game's going that way and I think the players have to follow. You
really have to remember as well, the dartboard's entirely different. The trebles and doubles and the bullseye are 14% bigger than what they were when I did the 9-dart game in 1984. The wires were round. We had big staples holding them in, 3 big ones holding the bullseye in. Now the wires are razor blade thin, and yet the screen print area of the double, treble and bull are exactly the same, so it means that they are actually bigger.
And I spoke to you a couple of years ago. I done a great interview with you about 5-6 years ago, but we spoke about meeting Muhammad Ali. You had the honor of meeting Muhammad Ali on 2 occasions, but could you just tell the fans what it was like meeting Muhammad Ali the first time around, and of course bumping into him all them years later with your son?
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, they rang me from BBC in London and asked me if I'd come down on Sunday morning to meet and do a programme on nerves. And I said, well, not really, it's a county match. And they said, well, if I tell you there's an hero of yours on the programme, would you come? I said, well, tell me who it is. And they said, well, Muhammad Ali. Or Cassius Clay was at that time. Yeah. And I said, just tell me what time to be there. I'll be there, no problem. And I got down there, and what a great day. To meet him was phenomenal, because I'm a boxing fan anyway. And he is my sporting hero. And then it was a great afternoon on BBC. I played him and we got chatting, and then 7 years later I met him in Utah, in Wasatch, where we had a barbecue together for 2 hours, which was amazing really, to even meet the man again, which is it's so sad a few weeks ago when he passed away.
I know, it was sad, but I remember you telling me that story a couple of years ago, and I tell people that story to this day, that the great Johnny Lowe, you know, got to meet and play with Muhammad Ali. And then met him a couple of years later. So it's a great story to have, no doubt. And I know you have obviously the pictures on the wall at home.
Oh yeah, and especially my son, because he was only 8 years old, and Ali picked him up and put him on his arm and pulled his fist back, pretending to hit him. And I still say it's the biggest smile my son's ever had. Me looking back on it, I would remember he kept picking his foot off the floor when he threw. I was trying to coach him to play. And so I stood on his foot. And I often think, you know, the greatest boxer for many of all time, and here I am, just standing on his foot and holding him down. And, you know, I didn't get a clip.
An amazing story. And John, just a quick question for you. What's been your greatest achievement in darts? I have to ask you that question.
I used to say winning the world title was the greatest achievement that I've done. But looking back on it, the momentum and the times it's come up, over 1 million hits on YouTube, it's got to be the first 9-dart game. It's got to be the greatest thing.
And we still see it every day, and it's always great to watch it. It's good for the underage these days to go on YouTube and actually be able to see that as well. So it inspires people to know that John Lowe hit the first 9 dart there and got a nice little bonus for that as well against Keith Deller. So it's definitely my favourite 9-darter, I must say, given the fact, its purpose. It's even the way you've done it was quite outstanding. You didn't flinch once, so we have to give you massive credit for that.
Thank you.
Good stuff. And John, just a quick question, just for all the younger lads, all the future dart players of today. What advice can you give them? What do they have to do to get to the top?
Well, practice is great, but just to stand at a dartboard practicing on treble 20 is that doesn't make you a champion. You've got to be able to hit every single part of that dartboard, every double, every treble, and every big number. So the advice I give to all dart players, start off by going around the doubles, double 1, double 2, double 3, and just carry on. Practice is not nice, it's not fun. Practice is there, it's hard work, and it's boring. You don't get any fun out of practice, but what you do, it makes you the player. And that is my advice. That's the starting basic point. Just don't throw at treble 20, because that doesn't win dart matches.
Well, there you hear it, guys. That's the advice from the man himself, Mr. John Lowe. John, as always, it's an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I have no doubt that we'll see you in Ireland, hopefully in the near future.
You will, for sure.
John, listen, best of luck, sir. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.